Need all yellow forms. Welcome everyone to this meeting, and I call this meeting to order. We have already had the flag salute because we had a special budget meeting at 6 o'clock. So we will skip that, and I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
I will second that.
All right, motion by Lindsay, second by Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, now we move on to public comment. We would love to have all of you at all of our board meetings all the time. So I will start with a quick little information thing about public comments. The Othello School Board of Directors is committed to hearing and seeking input from the parents, teachers, and the community at large in a variety of formats. One of these formats is public comment at our regularly scheduled board meetings. When your name is called, approach the front table. You're gonna all be in person in this case. Do we have any public comments from not in person? I didn't never ask that. Speak into the microphone, giving your full name, where you live, and where you live for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. You will be timed. It does beep. Be respectful of the board when speaking. Be ready to respond to questions from the board if asked. That doesn't count in your 3 minutes. Address your testimony to the board members, not the audience. Do not address questions to the board. The board's goal for public comment period is to hear your concerns, comments, and opinions. Questions can be answered through calls or letters to board members. Try to resolve any issues with teachers, school principals, or other district personnel before bringing the issue to the board. Recognize that the board does not discuss personnel matters at board meetings. Do your homework and understand the basic facts of the issue before addressing the board. Prepare an outline of your testimony so it is well organized and avoids repetition. And the main purpose of board meetings is for the board to conduct its business in public. During that time, the board will be listening and learning from each other and those previously invited to provide input. Basically, all of this, if you can find and know how to work our board docs, it's always in B1 where public comment lives in our board meetings. Okay, we are now starting with the top of the list. John Lockard. Please make sure that the microphone is on as well. They checked it.
Check.
Thank you.
It sounds like it's on. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I found it funny when I walked in. I was the first one here out of most of these group to show up, and not a single person in here was wearing a mask. First off, I applaud you for exercising your individual right to choose what you want to do with your face. So, good job. And I also respect those that do want to wear masks. By any means, I would never tell you what to do with your face or your body. So as you understand, I was told and I saw on Facebook that masks were going to be discussed today. So we kind of rallied some people to come here and share our opinions and whatnot. So there's some grave concerns about the efficacy of masks with children in relation to social emotional learning, to their ability to just socialize with their peers, and us as parents and teachers that you see in this room adamantly disagree with a forced mandate for our children to have to wear masks. Now, I 100% understand this is a state level, it's not you guys. The reason I'm here is not because I'm in opposition to you. I'm here and I've rallied people and I want people to come here to say that we support you in standing against these oppressive measures that are coming down from the state level. We understand there's implications with OSPI making threats to withhold funding, that teachers unions want to sue and do all this stuff. We understand that it's a hard road, but it's a right road, okay? We understand that it's not an easy path, but we believe that we can make the right decision, and if we do it as a community together in the masses, our voices will be heard. And so with that, there's going to be other speakers tonight that share different things, but I wanted you to know that as a tax-paying citizen of this, I should have said I'm John Lockard, I live in Othello, sorry, should have started with that. As a tax-paying citizen of this community and this country and this state, I wanted my voice to be heard that my children will not be wearing masks this year. Whether you require it or not, I will bring them every single day and drop them off at school, and you decide what you do with them from there. And if you send them home, I'll bring them back the next morning, and the next, and the next, and the next. That's my plan as a parent. If it escalates beyond that, Who knows what happens. But that's my plan as a parent right now because it's the only thing I can do. But what you guys can do is you can make a choice to unify together, to represent people in our community. And I actually hope that tonight, I don't know if I can make a motion or ask for a consensus, but tonight I want to hear from the board. And I encourage you guys that you find other school districts that want this same thing. You partner together, you set aside funds to create a legal fund to sue the state, because I believe they're violating not only state but also federal constitution by threatening to withhold federal funds from school districts for violating a mask mandate. I would like to see that happen tonight. I'd like to see a consensus from you or a motion of some sort to say that you are unified. Maybe not all of you are, but maybe a majority of you are. And I'd like to hear that tonight, and I think other people would as well. With 6 seconds left, I wish you all well, and have a great evening.
Next, we have Paul Fuller, I think. Yes.
Well, like you said, my name is Paul Fuller. I'm from Othello. I apologize. I found out about this meeting about an hour ago, so I have a very amateur talk to give to you guys. I strongly...
Can you put the mic just a little
Yep,
closer
or
so
I can scoot
everybody
in
can
too.
hear it?
Yep,
Thank
my
you.
bad. Okay. So I strongly disagree with the mask mandate, especially for children. I realize, and I've been told, the school board is not who we're fighting here. It's obviously the decision. A lot of the decisions are made from the teachers union and the governor. There's absolutely no reason for it. I made just a quick list here, and if you bear with me here, I believe last year with the students having masks, there was so much confusion. Last year was a lost year for kids, an interruption in education. As much as the teachers tried to pull it together, it was mass confusion, and I believe a lot of the kids didn't get the education that they deserved. Like I said, I don't think there hasn't been any science proven to me or anything that I've read behind the masks, especially for children. As far as my knowledge, there's not been any deaths in children that don't have pre-existing conditions. If there are children with pre-existing conditions, then maybe there's some other sort of actions that need to be taken according to what their parents believe. I understand there's a big idea that the children are transmitting COVID to parents or grandparents. That's one of the arguments that I've heard. I've studied this and I have looked at different numbers, and that's false. I haven't seen that in what I've read. The health issues with masks, there's children from when they're born up to age 5, their brains are developing. For their brains to develop, they need 100% of the oxygen they can get. If they're not, it's going to severely impair their brain growth and the rest of their life with not getting the required oxygen that they need. And that's just scary. It's very unhealthy. It's unhealthy for all the children. When they're out exercising, they're breathing back in their own germs. And I guess I'm 9 seconds left, so I should make this quick. And I'm extremely against masks, and that's all I have to say, I guess.
Thank you.
It's a pretty ill-prepared speech. Thank you.
Can I give him a minute of my time?
And next we have John Erickson.
I'll give him another minute to finish up, and I'll take 2 if the
Sorry,
board will allow
you
it.
get 3. If you'd
didn't
like
see
to
that in
take
the
2.
rules.
It does say that in the rules, because I
No
wrote those
donating
rules and
time.
we all, okay.
Oh, okay.
We'll adjust. No donating time. All right.
He had some really good stuff to say.
Your name and just the city you live in, I guess.
I'm John Erickson, City of Othello. I'm also a city councilman here speaking on behalf of myself as a person and a parent and a resident of the City of Othello within the school district, and not on behalf of the City of Othello. I know what you guys are going through. I sit in that chair. I'd be there tonight. I got excused from city council meeting tonight to be here because I think it's important. And like Mr. Lockhart had mentioned, I'm here in support of the city of the school board to find an avenue to move forward in a bigger number. I understand the implications that come to you as a volunteer board member for a school district if you go outside legal authority or legal recommendation. I understand that very well. I think we made some mistakes as a city. And when I say a city, I mean as a city as a whole, as people, as governing boards, as a school board, city council. When this thing first came out, we all got scared of those implications. And so we just went along. We didn't really reach out to surrounding communities. And by the time we had, it was too late and they started giving our freedoms back. I think now's the time. We're going to start to see these mandates come down stronger and stronger. And as we approach the time to whether or not the vaccine is FDA approved sometime in September, as they're announcing now, we're going to see these come down even stronger. So whether you're pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine or somewhere in the middle, that's not the point. But we're going to see the mandates where we're going to have state intervention in our ability to be a parent. Now, I don't know if there's anybody here, but if anybody here thinks the state can raise your kids better than you, raise your hand. Okay. So I'm here to help. I want to help. And I want to ask the board for consensus. And I want to ask for action. And I know I'm breaking the rules by asking, but it's not a question. It's almost a demand. So I'll use that word, and then it falls in the gray area. Isn't that what us politicians do? I want you guys to form a committee, and I want you to direct the superintendent, if will be, whether tonight, to go out and start building a coalition of other schools and other districts. And I'll give you the commitment that I'll work on my behalf as well to help bringing those together as well, to see who's going to stand with us, because they can't stop us all. But if it's just one person, we're in trouble. So united we stand, divided we fall, and I think right now it's time to unite. So I am going to ask for that, and I don't know whether the proper protocol is to sit here until I have that, or to get a commitment that we'll have a decision this evening before the end of the board meeting. And I'll give you the opportunity to see whether or not I stand up.
The board will have our comments and our discussion following public comments.
Okay, and all in favor of a board consensus tonight, raise your hand.
Okay, our next
Thanks,
speaker
board.
is Nicole Gonzalez. You ready? Can you hold on for the timer? Thank you. Okay.
Okay. I'm Nicole Gonzalez, and I live here in Othello. On June 14th, 2005, I gave birth to a baby girl, Olivia Jean. She's now 16, and she's going to start CBC as a Running Start student. Some people think that's when I became a mom, but even before she was born, I was her mom. I was a parent. I made choices for her. I decided what I thought was best for her. Do I take prenatal vitamins? Do I go to an OBGYN, a family practice doctor, or a midwife? Do I exercise? Do I cut back on sweets? Do I drink enough water? Am I going to get an epidural? Am I going to breastfeed, or am I going to feed her formula? She was my baby, and it was up to me to make the best decision for myself and for my child. No one forced me to do anything for my child. We as parents make decisions every day for our children. That is our God-given right and responsibility. Always choose to do what is right for your child. Fast forward to when we enroll our children in school. Do I put them in preschool? It's not mandatory, it's my choice. Some children need it, some don't. Do I put them in the dual language program? Once again, not mandatory, it's my choice. Do I send them with a school lunch from home, or do they eat school lunch? Not decided for me, it's my choice as their mom. Do they ride the bus? Not mandatory, my choice. Do they use mechanical pencils or sharpened ones? Do they wear Velcro shoes or tied shoes? All these decisions we all make daily for our children. We know our children. We know what is best for them, what we believe is best for them and for our family. And I understand that not every family is the same. What is best for one might not be best for another. But we are all given that option to choose. And I'm not going to go into my opinion on whether or not masks are beneficial or necessary, but all I'm asking is that you don't take that decision away from me. These are our children. Those are my children. And we should be allowed to make that decision for them. And I know that you, like everyone else has said, you're feeling pressured or that you feel like you have to do something. But as a community, we will back you up and we will support you. There is nothing stronger than parents who are fighting for their children.
Next is Leanne Jorgensen. You might want to turn in your name card later than her next time.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Tough act to follow. All right. I'm Leanne Jorgensen. I obviously live in the city of Othello. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Leanne Jorgensen. That's how nervous I knew I'd be. I have an 8 and an 11-year-old in the Othello School District, one of which who attends Scootney Springs and the other who attends Lutacaga Elementary. Over the course of the last few years, I have truly grown to love the Othello School District due to its camaraderie and the loving community. The reason I am here today is because I can guarantee you that every single person in this room knows a child that they genuinely love. Specifically, us parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, legal guardians, we can all probably attest to one thing that we've said to someone regarding our child once upon a time. If we don't stick up or look out for our children, then who will? It was only a few short weeks ago that I shared the exciting news with my daughter that she would get to go back to school this year for a full day. The excitement was all over her face. She was so excited to see her friends for a full day and have a sense of normalcy in her life again. My daughter is a lover of all humans and pets, so this social interaction for her is huge. She is also a lover of knowledge. She asked me shortly after if she would have to wear a mask this year, and I said, as it looks at this moment, yes. What was seconds ago a smile quickly turned to a frown and sadness. Now, I am no doctor, and to put it quite simply, I don't have any fancy letters at the end of my name. What I do have is a pretty good head on my shoulders and some common sense. What wearing a mask will do to our kids from a health standpoint, I can't really tell you as it relates to physical health. But mental health, I can see all the red flags already in just my own children. They need to have the comfort of a grown-up smile. They need to see their whole face to fully grasp facial expression and to help them recognize their peers when they're outside of school. So, as everyone else has said, I know that this goes against what is being asked of us right now. But all I'm asking you is to stand with our children and know that we're going to stand with you too. Thank you.
Next is Jill Powell.
There are 3 of us that are going to be reading something together. So Hannah has the first 3 minutes, Amaris the second 3, and then me. Does that work?
We need forms for all of you.
We do.
Oh,
They're there.
Oh, they're all in order.
So we're, yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
As long as you use a mic and we have forms, we're good.
Yes. All right, I'm Hannah Mose. I'm sure you all know I'm from here. So we wanted to share a video with you, but I was told we couldn't do that. So we printed the transcript and we'd like to read it to you. So these are verbatim this doctor's words. So his name is Dr. Dan Stark, and he presented this 3 days ago. The address you're about to see is hard to believe. 18 months into this and still having a problem. And I would suggest the reason we still have a problem is because we're doing things that are not useful and we're getting our sources of information from the State Board of Health and the CDC, who actually don't bother to read science before they do this. I'm actually, not me, a functional family medicine physician. That means I am specially trained in immunology and inflammation regulation. And everything being recommended by the CDC and the State Board of Health is actually contrary to all the rules of science. So things you should know about coronavirus and all other respiratory viruses: they are spread by aerosol particles, which are small enough to go through every mask. This information is from at least 3 studies that were sponsored by the NIH to the exact fact, even though the CDC and the NIH have chosen to ignore the very science that they paid to have done. This is why you keep struggling with this, is because you cannot make these viruses go away. The natural history of all respiratory viruses is that they circulate all year long, waiting for the immune system to get sick through the winter or become deranged, as has happened recently within these vaccines. And then they cause symptomatic diseases because they cannot be filtered out and they have animal reservoirs. And this is a very important point. No one can make this virus go away. The CDC has managed to convince everybody that we can handle this like we did the smallpox, where we could make a virus go away. I'm sweating, by the way. Smallpox had no animal reservoir. The only thing it learned to infect was humans. That's why we're able to make that virus go away. That will not happen with this any more than it will with influenza, the common cold, RSV, adenoviral respiratory syndromes, or anything else that has animal reservoirs. So the reason you can't do this is because you're going to do something which has already been tried and can't be done. Equally important is that vaccination changes none of this, especially with this vaccine. And I would hope this board would start asking itself before it considers taking the advice of the CDC, the NIH, and the State Board of Health, why we are doing things about this that we didn't do for the common cold, influenza, or RSV. And then ask yourself, why is a vaccine that is supposedly so effective having a breakout in the middle of the summer when respiratory viral syndromes don't do that?
My name is Amaris Garza. I live in Othello, and I'm just going to continue to read this. And to help you understand that, you need to know the condition that is called antibody-mediated viral enhancement. That is a condition done when vaccines work wrong, as they did in every coronavirus study done in animals on coronaviruses after the SARS outbreak and done in RSV, where a vaccine used in a vulnerable individual done the wrong way, which why it cannot be done right for respiratory virus, which has a very low pathogenicity rate, causes the immune system to actually fight the virus wrong and let the virus become worse than it would with native infection. And that is why you are seeing an outbreak right now. We have studies showing that 75% of people who had COVID-19 positive symptom cases in Barnstable, Massachusetts outbreak were fully vaccinated. Therefore, there is no reason for treating any person vaccinated any differently than any person unvaccinated. You should also know that no vaccine, even the ones I support and would give to myself and my children, the doctor, ever stops infection. In 2014, there was outbreak of mumps in the National Hockey League. The only people who came down with the symptoms were the people who were unvaccinated or unknown vaccine status. Boy, that sounds like a great argument for vaccines, but a question that you should ask yourself, knowing that half of the people who came down with symptomatic disease had no contact with an unvaccinated or unknown vaccine status individual. Where did they get the disease? And the answer was from the vaccinated individuals. No vaccine prevents you from getting infection. You get infected, you shed pathogen. This is especially true of viral respiratory pathogens. You just don't get symptomatic from it. So you cannot stop spread. You cannot make these numbers that you've planned on to get better by doing any of the things you're doing, because that is the nature of viral respiratory pathogens. And you can't prevent it with a vaccine because they don't do the very thing you're wanting them to do. And you will be chasing this the remainder of your life until you recognize that the Center for Disease Control and the Indiana State Board of Health are giving you very bad scientific guidance. And that's why you're still fighting this with this vaccine that supposedly was going to make all of this go away. But it suddenly managed to make an outbreak of COVID-19 develop in the middle of the summer when vitamin D levels are at their highest. By the way, the other thing that would be necessary, any vaccine restriction to be considered, is if there were no other treatment available. And I can tell you, having treated over 15 COVID-19 patients, that between active loading with vitamin D, ivermectin, and zinc, that there is not a single person who has come anywhere near the hospital.
And we already have studies that show that if you achieve a 25-hydroxy vitamin D level greater than 55, your risk of COVID-19 death will drop down to 1/4 of the population average for the United States. And there's an active treatment trials included on information that you shared, the flash drive, to show that the same is true. So if you're going to discriminate based on vaccine, you should also discriminate based upon 25-hydroxy vitamin D level, zinc taste test response, and probably previous infections. Since there are also studies like flash drive that show that people who have recovered from COVID-19 infection actually get no benefit from vaccination at all, no reduction in symptoms, no reduction in hospitalization, and suffer 2 to 4 times the rate of side effects if they are subsequently vaccinated. Therefore, the policies that you are basing on are totally counterfactual. I don't blame this board for that because I know you aren't scientists and you've thought it was reasonable to listen to the CDC, NIH, and the Indiana State Board of Health. But I would encourage that instead you listen to the people out here in this audience. He goes on to talk a little bit more, but this was a lot of information, and we have a lot of research that we have community members that are here that have a ton of really good research that we can share with the board. I mean, stuff that you may have seen, but we know you are in a hard place, and we wanted you to know that it's really hard for kids to be wearing masks all day. I am going to break it down a little bit. 5 years ago, I have my daughter starting kindergarten, and when she was born, I never thought that we would be here, that she was going to be starting kindergarten with a mask on, and it takes away from the educational experience. I see it as an educator, as a school counselor. I see it with the social emotional impact every day. To be in school a full day, kindergartners 6.5 hours a day with the mask on. I've read a lot about the how it's not sanitary, and just I see kids that come into the school that are wearing that same mask for the full week, their half day. I didn't have that. I wasn't planning on sharing my personal. I've talked to so many of you already about how I feel as an educator, but as a parent, this really hits home, and I wanted to share my voice. We're all here just to share with you our voice and to know that we are here to support you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to mess up your last name. Jorge? Anguiano? Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you for the assistance.
Good afternoon. I don't have a bunch of science, and all these fine people have a lot nicer stuff. Well put together speeches. I don't really have a speech, but like it's been said time and time again, we're here to support you guys. We're just parents that are just fed up. It's just been said, we don't want our kids' faces covered. I know it started as a health deal, but now it just seems like the education and all that's kind of been lost, where it's just like, oh, your mask and rules. With the virus, it's not about learning. It's not about the experience. My oldest is about to be in high school, and a full day of a mask, and my wife and I said, no way, you're not going to wear that thing on your face for 8 hours. So it's at the point where we're going to keep them at home, because that high school experience, which they're supposed to have, that we all had, everybody in here, it's not there anymore. I mean, it's just rules and masks and guidelines and this and that. And like John said, we're here to support you guys. And I wish there was more parents that had showed up, but it doesn't surprise me that they didn't, just because of the way everything's been going and everybody's just complacent, like one more rule, one more guideline, and they just take it. And so that's all I got. My kids, I won't send them to school without a mask. I'd just keep them at home. If it's going to be an 8-hour day with a mask, and that's my wife and I's decision. And but we're on your side, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Rob Simmons.
There was a tone when you said that. Hi, everyone. I'd like to say it's more comfortable on this side of the mic, but I don't know if it is. Those who know me know how much I love to speak in public. But so last year, we didn't have our kids in the school district. Some of you know that. And it was 100% because of the masks. And this year, they hated it. I mean, they excelled, but they hated not having that social interaction. So we're choosing to put them back, as of right now, back in the schools. I doubt that for those of you who already have a feeling about the masks, I'm not sure the science really matters that much to you. You probably know it. I think you probably understand that it's really not about science anymore, right? Because we've all read a ton of science, and there's so much there's so much that proves against it, that I think it's beyond that now. But I think what I want to do is encourage you guys, because I've been on that side of it. You have local control. There's consequences, don't get me wrong. There's potential consequences. But I, as one taxpayer, look at this and say, if they want to withhold funds from our district, that's my money that they're withholding from my district. And I will fight. I'll fight with you guys. But you're just going to have to be brave. If you really feel this way, right? I don't think anyone, I don't know how you all feel right now. But if you feel this way, you have to be brave, and you have to fight it, and you have to say, okay, if you're going to take our funding, then I guess you're going to take our funding. But last year we had kids that just weren't in school. And I would say, I haven't seen the numbers, but there was failure last year, right? In the end, kids went into school, but it wasn't good. Everyone did the best with what they had, but it wasn't good. And so I like what John said about forming a committee to start to research this, but I would go beyond just putting it on the superintendent, and I would say form a committee as a board and get some of these people on it, because these are the ones that are passionate, and they will work their butts off to get information, right? And if as a board, and hopefully we find this out tonight, if you're behind no mask for kids, then get the people who are really going to support you to have a committee to go out and do the work, but you have to be involved too. Don't trust necessarily what you're hearing, but get involved in the work too. And like I said, I'll support you however I can, because it's the right thing, for sure. So thank you. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Rob Simmons.
I think we're good on who you are. Thanks. Not everybody. You're right, not everyone. Is it Miguel Horton? Yeah. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, yeah. So I'm here also to be with my people, everyone behind me, and you as well. We are a team. We are a city, a town, and we all need to have each other's backs on this. I am against having masks. I have a stepson that's already going to be a 6th grader, and I can already tell you now that it's a struggle for him. You know, his whole social mentality has declined this last year. He's not big on hanging out with his friends as much anymore when it comes to school. When he's not at school, this whole summer he's been having a blast not wearing a mask anywhere. I have a 5-year-old, she's going to start kindergarten at the end of the month. I do not want to see her wearing a mask anymore. It bothers me to have to put a mask on her and know that she's breathing in her own CO2. The same with him, the same with all of us. And that, to me, is like parking your car in the garage, closing the doors and turning your car on and staying in there and hanging out. It's just not beneficial, in my opinion. I also believe that you guys have the power to overthrow anything that's thrown your way. You have all of us behind you. We will support you. We are together in this. I've known Perez my whole life. He knows who I am. He knows what I'm about. He knows my family. We're not going to give up on fighting for our kids. Our kids are everything. They're the future. And what's to happen if those kids grow up having to wear a mask every day for 8 hours? It's going to bother them. The whole mentality is going to change on who you are and how you are as a simple human being. You're not going to be the same as how we were growing up, like how this gentleman said, high school. Who wants to miss out on things in high school because you have to wear a mask? They're more worried about rules, like you were saying, and guidelines, instead of the education. I'll tell you this, my stepson struggled with this. I know he didn't pass a lot of his classes. I was there to help him with his homework, but it was hard for him because he wasn't getting that full attention and interaction with his classmates and with his teacher. So I think that we need to have no masks for school, and we just need to put our foot down and let the people above us know we're not backing down. And with 35 seconds left, my name is Miguel Horton. I'm from Othello, and go Huskies.
Okay, we are going to move on to B2 board member discussion, and that actually, if I can get my screen to go move, starts with a legislative report. So, which is the discussion that we're having. There was a letter that State Superintendent Chris Reichdahl sent to WASDA members, which is Washington State School Directors Association, and superintendents that, can you pull this up? It's actually in Superintendent, where is it at? Thank you, Superintendent Informational Items. And so if you'll go to the bottom of page 2, for those that were not already aware of this information, there's a lot of details here. We're going to start with number 5. By constitutional authority and this RCW, one of the state superintendent's clear powers is supervision over all matters pertaining to the public schools of the state. Apportionment amounts and timing are shaped by additional law. But let me be clear. Boards or districts that intentionally disobey, dismiss, or shun an explicit law, including a governor's executive order which has the power of law, will see an immediate halt to their basic education apportionment, and their federal funds that come through OSPI. Any district that does not offer a full-time, in-person learning experience for each and every family and student that seeks it will be considered in violation of basic education rights of families and will also have their apportionment and federal funds immediately halted. These critical public health actions, including masking for now, are not at the discretion of local boards or local superintendents. I just want to be clear about those details.
What's the purpose then?
Pete, do you have anything that you can share with us on details for those funding things or anything else?
Yeah, so at 6 p.m. today, we had the public hearing about the budget for the next school year, and the projected budget and revenues. So the local tax, the amount that we all contribute as community members in the Othello School District, that's about $3,750,000, right? That's what goes into the coffers to operate the school district and provide experiences for students. The state general purpose fund is right around $45 million, and the state special fund is about $15 million. And then this year in particular, there's been an increase in federal funding because of the ESSER funding, and that's about $13 million. So give or take $73 million from would be funds at risk based on this letter and this information from the state.
Okay, thank you. So now comes our parts that has been requested. And I think we had planned on anyways saying something. I know that for myself, if this was a local decision, I would vote that families could have a choice.
I'll go next. I'm Lindsay Prowse, for those of you who don't know me. I'm so happy to see everyone here tonight, and I just want to say I feel so inspired that everyone showed up, and I'm also a mother to children that go to this school district. I second all of the things that were said tonight. I don't want my children to be forced to wear a mask. I saw how it affected them for the last 18 months. I don't like wearing a mask, and so I don't want to ask of children what I'm not willing to do myself. Just to be clear, Consuelo has to wear a mask because she's a student. And so the hypocrisy in the situation upsets me. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to be the champion going to the governor and storming the Capitol. I don't know how to do that, but I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to get behind whatever we need to do as parents and as community members. But I am only one person on this board, and I cannot make change alone. There has to be a majority of board members that are willing to move forward with this. I have been vocal about wanting kids back in school. I don't think anyone is surprised that I also don't want kids wearing masks, and I want you to know that I gave everyone a round of applause because I agree with all of the things that were said today, and I too believe that if we stand united, we can really make a change. But this board also has to be united in that decision moving forward. And so, just so you're clear where I stand, I think that's the direction that we should go. But I also don't want our teachers to be out of jobs. There are teachers in this room right now. I don't want them to go without paychecks, and I don't want our district to be shut down. I don't know if those are empty threats or they're blowing smoke, but that also makes me a little nervous as well if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I feel pretty much the same way as Lindsay. I'm really happy to see everybody here, and I'm really happy to hear how much you guys are willing to support us, because that's where it's going to take. This is not a battle that one district is going to win. It's going to take a movement by many school districts within the state, and it's getting that word out to do that. And I don't know if it starts here. I imagine that there is many school boards right now that are going through the same thing. In many school districts, they're hearing the same things from their parents and students. I do not like going into the school year wearing the mask, but this has been the most restrictive letter that we have seen come from the state so far. So I don't know if it's a pushing match to see who could push as much. But I'm willing to take it further if we can. Right now, we at least have our kids in school, full day, back in school. There's a start. I'm not happy with the mask mandate and the way it's starting out again. I am not happy with it at all, because it affects everybody. With your continued support, let's get the kids in school, and let's keep on trying to push to try to get the mask off of them.
So I applaud all of you that come up here and speak, because I'm not a speaker. I'm always nervous up here anyway. Everyone else around me speaks fluently and just goes along, but I'm not well at speaking. But I am one that didn't want us to miss school. I wanted us back in school full time, and I still want us back in full time. The masks, I'm not for masks, but I cannot see us losing funding. We wouldn't have school. What were we going to do for our kids? I do not know what to say. I'm willing to work with the board if everyone is wanting to go out, but one little town in the state of Washington can't do it. We have senators and congressmen. Those are the people you need to contact. You know, we don't need to contact them? I thought they, well,
We have to take a stand right here. If you trade your liberty.
We're
for
not
safety,
having
you deserve to be
conversations with the attendees. We're having a board conversation.
How she heard it, though.
sorry, Jen.
It's okay.
You
You gave a direction.
But I do know, I mean, I have read where some of the congressmen and senators are trying to get together to help the towns. I don't know what we do. I don't want masks in the kids. It hinders their speaking. I totally see that. I see it's hindering their social and emotional, but we have to get them back in school. We can't have them go without education. I think we have one person missing from our board, our president, and when he gets back, I think we'll have a meeting. But I think we're all willing to do, and I'm willing for families to make their choice. There are going to be some that want to wear masks. There are going to be some that don't want to. I don't feel comfortable with the masks for kids at all, but I don't want to see anyone be sick, and I don't want that to be on my conscience later. Right now, I have a little new granddaughter, and I wear my mask in the stores all the time because I'm not about to give her anything, and it's really hard. And I have forgotten. I've walked in the store and go, oh, I don't have a mask. I'm not fighting anyone on the masks at all, but I'm going to protect that little baby because right now, we're lucky we have her. So I have to be protective of that child. So I will still wear a mask when I go to the store. I'll wear it as a board member if we're told I have to be at the school, but I don't want the kids to have to do it. I don't want to ruin their health, their mentals. I don't want to do any of that. But we are going to have to figure out something more of a plan than just 5 board members and the town of Othello. We're not going to be able to get 11,000 people to go with us, I don't think. I mean, we're not against you guys at all. I mean, we all don't want to see these masks on these kids.
Consuelo, do you, as a student rep, do you have any comments that you would like to share?
Yes. Well, personally, I do enjoy wearing a mask because I feel a lot safer as someone who is not originally from Othello. I lived in a really big city, so there was a lot of people, and I didn't feel safe without a mask because I get sick very easily, and so I'm not against them. So I understand where all of you guys are coming from because I have a little sister, and she doesn't she wears a mask because she will have to, but it's hard for her to make friends. And also, as someone who is a little bit hard of hearing, it is a lot harder to understand people if they are wearing a mask. So you have to talk louder, and sometimes it's not nice to talk very loud to people. So yeah, if we could, I would like to just have it be anyone's choice if they wanted to wear it, and if they didn't want to wear it, it's just their choice. But personally, me as a student, I would still wear mine no matter what, just because I want to keep everyone around me safe, and myself safe, and everyone in my family safe.
We support you wearing your mask.
Yes.
Thank you, Consuelo, for sharing your opinion. I've just gotten word that Mike Garza, our board president, is on Zoom and would like to share in the board discussion. So we're going to hopefully hope there's no technical difficulties with getting that while I'm trying to delay.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, first and foremost, good evening to everyone. I wish I was there. I just parked alongside of the road. I've been watching the meeting on my wife's phone. I'm not driving it and watching the meeting at the same time. I'm paying attention to the road but listening. I appreciate everyone there tonight. I really do. I appreciate your acknowledgement of this not being easy on the 5 people that are on this board. It is, I used to think that the reopening, bringing the kids back, was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. I know you've heard me say that choosing our superintendent was one of the hardest decisions we've ever made. Hearing this tonight, I'll jump that to one of the hardest decisions that we as a board are gonna make. I respect every opinion that was given tonight. I concur with most of them, truth be told. But as you all know, there is a protocol here. I don't know that tonight we can give you a firm commitment, and I may be overstepping my bounds. I can tell you that as one board member, if it came up for a vote tonight or if it was proposed, I would say that we would definitely start some sort of communication with other districts, other people who are involved. Yes. I don't think that's a proper term. I don't want our kids to wear masks on a personal level, as might guards of the community member. You've said it yourselves, science for, science to prove against. We're not only, this isn't going in Othello. I mean, we're facing this as a nation, and not just with masks. Our rights, to a certain extent, our liberties are being attacked each and every day, and are going to continue to be even more so here in the next 4 to 6 weeks, in my opinion. Having said that, I'm in favor of the board starting, I don't know if it's a committee, starting with a phone call, starting us reaching out to other districts and finding out, you know, what they're doing, what they plan on doing, if there's any collaboration that can happen amongst us. I feel okay to commit to that. I don't want, and again, Director Prowse said it, you know, is this empty rhetoric? Are these threats to the wind? I don't know. What I do know is that I'm not willing, I don't want to risk not being able to have our kids at school. So some way, somehow, we got to find a happy medium. It may entail beginning with this mask thing there until it gets settled. I don't know. We're up against the time clock. There's a lot of things that go into this subject tonight. And please excuse me for being long-winded, but I get passionate because I heard the passion from you all in that room tonight. Ideally, if there was a way where we could circumvent this and to begin the year, it's optional. Parents who the young lady just said she's going to wear a mask, irrelevant of what decision is made. I believe choice is choice. We had one of the speakers say, you know, she chose, do I take prenatal vitamins or not? She made those decisions. Maybe that's where we start, ladies and gentlemen. I am not sure. I have never been confronted with something like this, and I am being as honest and transparent as I can be. But I do believe in the cause. I don't think anything good comes from these masks. I have had discussions, conversations with family members for and against, not just the masking, the vaccination, the efficacy of it, and everything that's out there. But again, I just wanted to take the time, stop my driving, commit to you all that as a board member, I am willing to start the process, whether it's a committee, like I said, whether it's starting to make phone calls, form alliances if need be. And I hope you all understand the other thing that we got to consider, the other side of the coin. As easy as it is to say, yep, we're going to stand up and fight, I am hesitant to risk our funds being taken away, them not being empty threats. Maybe some of you will say, hey, yeah, but we will sue them. That is time consuming. Will they allow us to be in school while these suits go on if they allow them to? There's too much that comes into this decision. But I did want to take the time, like I said, to commit to you all that we can start a process of some kind. I was not at work today. I probably have a real busy day at work tomorrow. But I'm willing to put that aside, go in and make the phone calls that I have to try to get this started. So I appreciate each and every one of you tonight. To my fellow board members, I appreciate you all as well. The nerves, I have no nails. I'm driving with one hand and biting the others. I feel the pressure, but I also feel compelled to say that I do feel that I don't agree with masks, and I feel the pressure of needing to make a decision that is right for the well-being of our kids, and them being in school, ultimately right now, is the best thing for them. So I know I've said a lot. I apologize once again for being long-winded, but thank you very much. Hey, great job, Mr.
Mike, please stay on the side of the road. Don't drive yet.
Okay, a couple things.
Lindsay, yes.
First things first. This is on YouTube, so if we can share our meeting, maybe other districts can listen to it and feel empowered by knowing that we stand on the same side of no masks. And then we can work together to move forward. I wanted to read a quote from Elise Garza, who is our other student rep. She wasn't able to be here tonight, but she said, personally, I do not think students should be wearing masks. We have many students that have already been vaccinated who feel they should not be forced to wear a mask, and also many who suffer from medical conditions making it difficult to breathe with masks. During the last school year, I noticed difficulty to even get students to wear masks properly, so what's the point? Having the knowledge I do on the situation, I do not think that we should be forced. However, I will say if they are mandatory to go back in school, my opinion is I would rather go back with masks than not go back at all. Many friends have told me they do not want to wear masks in school, and a couple have told me they would like to come to the board and talk about it. I really wish that I was there because I've been wanting to talk about this all summer. So that's from our other student rep.
Thank you for getting her comment. Okay, so are we ready as a board to commit to talking to other boards? Can you turn Mike's volume down just a
I was gonna
smidge?
say we're having some sort of feedback issue.
It was great to be able to hear him, but to talk to another board or two, and I'm not just talking about one board member on that board, minimum of 3 board members on other boards so that we can get their consensus too, to know if we have others. Are we at the point that we're willing and ready to do that?
I am. I mean, if it's appropriate, I will make a motion that we form a committee to reach out to other boards to move forward in the process of forming something together.
Okay, so if we form a committee, a board committee, we need to have very clear definitions as to who we put on that, what they're going to do, or do we as a board want to reach out to other board members? I just want to know exactly what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know.
Yes, Mike?
I would suggest that before we form a committee, we commit ourselves to making these phone calls. More than likely, we are gonna find friends aligned in common with the fight. But before we commit to forming a committee and then calling these boards and finding out that they're not for it or what have you, I think we need to commit ourselves first to have these conversations and then form this committee if need be.
I do tend to agree. I see a nod, a couple of nods.
I mean, what's the legality of us having the committee with the, each time we talk, we have to have a meeting?
No, board members can talk to other board members at any time. The three or more of us would form, if we talk, we can talk to other board members throughout the state.
So 2 of you join the board.
So, what committees or what other districts would you like to volunteer to communicate with?
Well, I think we start with our own area close at hand.
Okay. Do you have
I can call Royal City.
Yeah, okay.
But you want 3, Mike, you want 3 different people to call 3 different board members in like each of the towns? Is that how you want it?
I want anyone who's willing to, Director Schutte, to call if they know a fellow board member from a different town. I would say that's where we start. I know that I can speak to perhaps somebody in Mattawa. You know, you might say that's not near us. Well, I know somebody on the Mattawa School Board. I think we should reach out to Moses Lake, Royal City, Connell, Warden. I mean, those are the folks that are real close to us.
Okay, so Mike, you're getting Mattawa. Would you like to take another one?
I'll try to contact someone in Moses Lake as well.
Okay.
I will call Ephrata, Colfax, Connell, Warden.
Oh, okay, hold on. Wow, that's lots faster than I can write. Okay, Connell, which technically is a different name. Who else? Afreda?
Colfax, Warden, Ephrata.
I'll call Quincy.
Okay, so you got 4, right, Lindsay?
Yep.
Okay. Sharon, you have Quincy. And did you say you're taking Royal?
I can do rural, but someone else can also do rural. There are 5 board members over there.
I-
They
I'll
may have
also call
different
Royal
That's what I was
opinions.
going to say, is don't stick with one board member's.
No, I think we
opinion
need to
and
spread it out so that,
All of us have overlap.
Okay.
We will all help.
So Sharon, you're good with those 2?
well, I
Unless you
mean,
wanna-
how many do you want us to have? So we don't have
My
like one person
opinion
doing 10
is
and one doing 1.
If we, as many as you would like to volunteer for. My opinion is if we get a consensus of each other board, at least by phone, if you talk to one board member, that doesn't mean that you're getting a consensus, which means more. 3 people or more from each board that you're calling, or split it up among us.
I have a friend in Kennewick.
Okay, so you'll take at least some in Kennewick? And Ken, we're up to you.
Has anybody said Connell, North Franklin?
Yes.
But
Lindsay's
there
got
can be
that.
2.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we could do,
Ritzville, Land,
okay,
I will. We got Odessa. We got Basin City's part of North
Connell.
Franklin. We do have many districts in the Pasco area.
okay, so you're
So-
gonna take Pasco too? Okay, I am going to take Cascade, which is
Leavenworth?
Leavenworth and some other city nearby. And I will take, actually, through the resolutions committee that I'm on for the state, there's like 16 of us, and so I want to send an email out that way, not just, I mean, local's great, but I'm sure that there's districts in other places
Statewide.
too.
Like I said, I believe this is a state issue.
Yes,
Many
I
districts
agree.
throughout the
So
state.
there's Spokane, there's,
Ellensburg.
there's big districts on that. So that's where I'm going to focus. And then once I get their opinions in the positive, then I will reach out to other board members. And kind of, because we all know what our consensus is already. And then to know whether we want to start a fight. So, Mike, are you good with your 2? Just a thumbs up. I see that you're muted, but
Jen, I will start with those 2.
perfect.
And I will ask, and when I'm having these conversations, hey, do you know anybody in neighboring districts? Or, maybe not neighboring districts. You just mentioned Spokane. Maybe reach out to folks on the other side of the mountains and see what's going on over there. I know we've received emails from board members in Puyallup and in that area. Maybe we reach out to those folks. I will be diligent and try to speak to as many board members as I can.
Perfect.
And just so everyone in the audience knows, all of our contact information is on the Othello School District website, or you can ask any of us. If you have contact information for any other boards around the state, send us their contact information so that we can call them and try and form a coalition.
So I think that we next need like a timeline.
Friday.
So would anyone like to come up with the board that's on the board? Consuelo, would you like to, I don't want to leave you out if you wanted to make any contacts. You don't have to.
Well, I don't know anyone, and I don't know anything about Washington, so.
Okay.
I mean,
I know
could
you
if
just
guys
moved
want.
here. Okay. If you wanted to, if you were burning to contact someone.
I can have Elise make some phone calls too.
Yeah.
What a
Ellie's
great
like.
aunt to force her
That's
niece
right. I'm happy to help if we need it.
Okay.
I'm here.
All right.
So.
How we can do this without forming a quorum and breaking the law is, can we email you, Pete, this information, and you can form the following districts would be possibly interested before we create a timeline. Is that something that you feel like?
So let me be clear. You want me to summarize your conversations with those folks, whether or not they'd be interested in partnering with the district? You're going to send me that information?
So that we're not violating OPMA. Is that something that you're willing to take on?
Is it something you're willing to direct me to do? Yeah, I work at the pleasure of the board, so if that's what you want me to do, I will absolutely put that information together
Okay,
for you.
I wanted to hear like that you were willing first. Okay, great. Next, timeline that we want to have the answers to Pete. He does send us a weekly Friday thing.
Well, let's try and have him our answers before Friday.
Okay. Yes. So,
We're basically asking if any of these school districts would be interested in forming a coalition. Wouldn't we have to give them a few days to talk to their other board members, or?
that's the reason why I'm saying if we talk to more than one board member, or if they if you already call somebody and go, no, then move on to the next district. Because we already know kind of what our board already feels like. I think that we knew that if this was a local decision, we all would have voted it's a local decision, and that it is up to the family to decide whether it's a mask mandate or not. But I think most other districts would kind of know that themselves. So, okay, are we all clear on what our requested orders are? Without,
Yes.
I mean, I don't think we need to make a motion or anything like that. We just know what we're doing. Okay, back to board member discussion. I think we're done with the legislative report. Now we are on to the school board annual calendar. Anything that we need to change for that? A portion of that is, we'll talk about the self-assessment in a minute, but school, new teacher orientation.
Thank you for coming.
I think the district needs to know who will be present for the new teacher orientation, because if there's a quorum, then they have to announce that there will be a quorum.
I will be
What time is it?
Yessie, could you tell us what time the new teacher orientation is, or Pete? 8 a.m. on the 22nd?
23rd.
23rd,
And approximate time it's.
and location
We typically have that at Othello High School in the corridor area.
as a breakfast, right?
Yep, we'll have a breakfast and have the new staff there and give you a chance to interact with them a bit and to introduce them to the system.
Okay.
Okay,
and-
so Ken's a yes.
Okay, I'm babysitting.
How
that's what I
long
need to know.
do you think that will take?
It'll take about an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I can go for an hour.
Yep.
Okay. I am not able to attend that. Lindsay?
I'm
Mike,
not.
are you still on? Okay. Mike can always inform you what he's able to attend. All right, so we will not have a quorum. I will not be able to attend that either. All staff orientation. Is there anything else you needed to add about the new teacher orientation?
Nothing about the new teacher orientation, but an adjustment to the all-staff orientation. So we're going to be doing that at individual school sites. So if any of you want to, certainly if we took 2 at a time, that would mean we wouldn't have to follow the OPMA guidelines and call a special meeting. So if any of you are interested in making the rounds with me that day, it'll probably be from about 8 to 11:30. We'll just do 10-minute, 15-minute shots at each school and then move on to the next one on the half hour. If you'd like to come around and be introduced to the staff or to say a message, certainly would welcome that if you want to come around with me. Just want to know who and when.
So that's, all the staff is going to be working that day, right then?
Yeah, so you can imagine that we would go to each individual school site. There'll be a staff meeting set up. We'll take a few minutes and talk about where we're at as a system, welcome everybody back, and again, you could introduce yourself, but don't want you to feel the pressure to be there, but certainly want you to feel invited and if you're able to participate.
I think the board's kind of made a commitment in the past to try to make ourselves a little more visual in the schools, and I would be glad to join you that day, on the first day.
I'm going to commit, but since I'm babysitting the teachers' kids, I don't need to have to find a babysitter.
So we'll plan on at least Ken and Sharon for now, and then we'll go from there. So we'll get you the times and locations and where we're going to start.
I doubt that I will be able to make that, but possibly. So I think that just to be safe, you should announce a quorum, that a quorum would be possible, I guess.
But no action will be taken.
Right.
It's important with that.
Right. The lovely little details of OPMA.
I think too, we have to wait and see what Mike says too.
Right, and Mike is already going to tell.
Okay.
Yes. So, okay, so we skipped a couple things there. I skipped a couple things there. Our board self-assessment review, anything else that we want to add to those things? Consuelo, would you like to be present for those meetings? You're welcome to.
Yeah, if I can make it, I would like to be there.
Okay. Awesome. They're very fun to get to meet those new teachers and all kinds of stuff. So you just aren't included in the OPMA rules, so you can come to anything you want. We'd love to have you there. Okay, anything else on the self-assessment? Okay. And Consuelo, it's great to have you present. Right there it says it is nice when we have a full board including students. That was what we would have wanted to change about our last meeting. All right. Let's go to the survey response update. I think that's the board's survey on our evaluation. How is that going?
So we have about 80 responses from the community and 120 from staff.
And you had it out for 3 weeks, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's the best we're going to get. It's just the time of year that it is. Typically that's done in the spring. Do you know how many in the past we've had?
Yeah, typically we have in total about 300.
Between the two? So
Mhm.
this time it's about 200.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually that's good numbers for the timing of year that we did that. So, okay, are we ready to move on unless there's any other? Consuelo, we're ready for student representative reports.
So we had at DOHS and OHS over 100 students apply for summer school, and majority of students completed at least one summer school course for credit retrieval. At Wahidis, kids completed about 4 weeks of learning, and there were approximately 125 students who enrolled. At Scootney, they had 130 students enrolled in the 4 weeks of summer school. And then, I don't know what school this is, but they had 80 students attend pre-K summer school for the entire 4 weeks, and the students grew an average of 24 points on the kindergarten assessment, and the largest amount of growth was 54 points. And Ludwikaga had approximately 140 students attend the summer school session. Our students and teachers continued with our dual language model learning. 50% of their time in Spanish and 50% of their time was in English. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. We're so glad that you're here and you can share your updates and opinions with us. All right, let's move on to C1, required approvals. I have a couple of questions before we can do any kind of motions. Under accounts payable, can you bring that up? So there's a 21-22 general page, and there's a whole bunch of different, these are next school year's fees, and are most of them look like they're textbooks and such, but trainings and yearly fees, is that basically what the gist of this is?
Yeah, exactly. It's in preparation for the next school year.
Perfect. Awesome that we're already ready and running. And then the 2021, can you go down to EWU? It just slide down. We're paying them $41,000. What is that?
Yeah, so as I think the board is aware, and maybe this will be a new experience for Consuelo, but there are significant opportunities at Othello High School for college in the classroom credits for our kids to earn some credits and stay at Othello High School, not have to go to Running Start or to move to that campus. So this is the fee for the spring quarter for our students that participated at Eastern Washington University.
So this is the fee for those that already completed?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Awesome.
Spring quarter
Okay.
2021.
Okay, spring. And then there's a canceled warrants page. Keep going. I think it's at the end. Nope. It looks very different. It's like a graph. It should still be in there, I think. Oh, is it different? Oh. So, can you explain what this page is?
Absolutely, and it's a good catch because this is a new procedure that Amy Suarez developed in partnership with Rebecca Montgomery, who's been our consultant for the last couple of years. And what you see here are checks that have been approved by the board that we maybe have sent out to vendors or to other folks that had to be canceled, and gives you information on why those warrants were canceled. We're going to move to a process where you're going to see this quarterly. You won't see it at every board meeting. But we just wanted to give you an update when you have approved items and then there's a change in it, just bringing that to the board's attention. You'll also note that moving forward, we're going to move to this idea about unclaimed property. So when we've completed a due process and notified folks that, hey, you haven't cashed your check, you need to figure it out, we don't hear back from them, then the county will now send that to the state and let them know that there's unclaimed property in the Othello School District for this individual or this company. So it's just letting the board know something you've approved that didn't get claimed.
So the ones that aren't unclaimed properties, like we get that money back, but the unclaimed properties, we just can't rescue?
Yeah, so it's not that we would get the money back, it's just that you approved this at one time, and then either you can see it got lost in the mail or there was an error in the processing. It's just giving you an update, just so we're being transparent with you and with the community about what comes in and what goes out.
I imagine the ones that say lost in the mail, those were reissued or?
Absolutely. Well,
So
we certainly would hear from those folks, and I think this is a really good example of us thinking about internal controls. Are we paying attention to making sure we pay our bills, but more importantly, making sure that we don't overpay them, right? And communicating with our vendors. So I think it's a really good idea and a really good process that they're putting together. And so again, it's new for the board, and you'll be seeing it quarterly.
Wonderful idea. Thank you very much. And Amy, we missed you at the board retreat. I should have said that before. It was noted that you were gone. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve required approvals.
I will motion to approve required approvals.
I'll second that.
All right, Lindsay moves and
Ask me that yet.
and Sharon seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes 4-0. All right, I will entertain a motion for C2, accounts payable warrants 2.
I will make a motion to
Approve.
approve the accounts payable warrants too.
I second.
All right, Sharon moves and Lindsay seconds. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I will have to abstain from that vote.
All right, passes with 3 votes and 1 abstention. We are now going to move to C3, Superintendent Informational Items. Anything else there we need to?
Well, we included the letter from OSPI Superintendent Reichdahl. There is another document there, masking quarantine update, and that was a communication that the district prepared based on the guidance from Superintendent Reichdahl. I think based on the comment that was shared publicly tonight by the board and by certainly many members of the community, I would look for some guidance around your expectations with this communication, because our intent was to push that out tomorrow following this board meeting. So it is the current reality. I know that it sounds like there's going to be at least a board level committee to look for partnerships and collaboration about challenging some of the mandates that are out there. But we had intended to send this to staff tomorrow to let them know where we're at right now.
I believe the actions by the board tonight were solely board actions and not district actions. The district still has to maintain what the law is. And unfortunately, I have a feeling kids are going to be starting the school with masks. And you have to follow that direction and the direction. Our actions were to, I believe, to just further
explore options?
Yes, explore options on what we can do as not just one community, but many communities to address the issue of making sure parents have the choice on what they want to do. So this letter here is, I think, still spot on for the direction that the district needs to move forward with. And then I believe the board will move forward with their actions that we feel until such direction that you get from us.
Does everyone agree with that? Yes. Yeah. Yes. We can't lose funding until we.
So what I'll plan on doing then is we had a communication plan and worked with Ed Peterson on thinking through how we're going to get that messaging out. We'll continue to move forward with that plan until we hear differently from the board, and certainly as we have conversations over the next several days. So, all right, thank you for that.
All right, we are ready for D1, graduate profile and benchmark end of year report.
Yeah, so I'm going to invite our Director of Professional Learning, John Wiseman. He's going to partner with me on this presentation. We're going to, we have about 10 slides to share with you. And I think tonight's a really powerful example of where we're at as a community, right? That everyone cares about their kids. What I heard tonight universally was those folks are really passionate about how their kids are doing. And they're concerned about the impact that distance learning had on them, the impact that masks might have on the ability to deliver effective instruction and to create the best learning environment we can for our kids. So what today is I think a culmination of about the last 8 months is how I'm marching this out, which is we got some momentum around the graduate profile. We've talked about the benchmarks. What you heard on Monday from the principals was, I think, a really coherent approach to how we're going to address where are our kids at in their learning progression. So what tonight I think will feel like is a coming together of the profile and the benchmarks. I hope you would view this as the second half of what you heard from the principals on Monday. Okay? You're going to see a summary of that. John built a really nice slide summarizing what those schools told you. We're going to give you some data. But what you should expect moving forward as we bring more kids back and we're able to deliver the instruction we need to and get the assessments that we want, you'll see more data. So I don't want you to leave tonight thinking, well, that wasn't much data. There's a lot out there that our teachers and our kids have had to deal with over the last year, and we're really excited about where we're at in the process. And we know that this is going to help us moving forward. So it's going to feel like an end-of-year report, like we're reporting on last year, but we're really viewing it as a transition to what's next. How do we make things better? So we'll go to the next slide, and I'll share with you this concept of nested goals and this idea that you all identified some goals for me, and we're going to share those here in a slide here in a moment, and said, Pete, we need you to get this work done in relation to teaching and learning. You heard from the principals on Monday what their building goals are. How are we going to measure that? We're going to measure it through the graduate profile and the benchmarks that we've talked about. So this visual is to help you get grounded in what we're talking about and how all the work has to be coherent and connected. Now, you gave me 3 specific goals. One was on reviewing what's happening in our professional learning communities, and so we have some exciting work going on around that. I had a chance to visit Wahidas today, and they're working on this Get Better Faster concept and driven by data. At DOHS, John had all the other schools there. They're working on the DataWise process. A couple of, I guess last week, Ludicaga was there working with dual language in New Mexico. All of our sites are up and running, working hard already, getting ready for the school year. So we're going to be able to report on that. I will as my own goals, right? Number 2 was around accountability, and that's how are kids doing? How are kids doing in our system? And you're going to hear some of that tonight, and we're using the graduate profile and the benchmarks to do that. I didn't want to skip the 3rd goal, which was around facilities, because that's going to be a significant conversation for us over the next several weeks. But tonight you're going to hear more about items 1 and 2. So that nested idea, here's what you've asked me to do. So when you had a chance to hear from me on Monday, I've been, I think, really clear with the board on how do I help provide a seamless transition for the system in the superintendency change. And I think there's some transition there for full-time in-person learning as well. We're getting back to something that was missing last year. How do we support the school sites? And then how do we build the capacity of others? And I shared with you my own goal, my internal goal of being in classrooms, not in classrooms, but in schools 25% of the time, partnering with principals on their work. So I wanted to be really transparent with the community about that and share again with you that that's the direction I'm heading in my work.
Thank you, Pete. So a week ago, last Monday, we had an opportunity to for our admin and board retreat, and I hope that you felt it was as good as I know the administration felt with that. And the building shared a lot of what their work is going to entail, what it's going to be, what the focus and emphasis is going to be. And so this slide is trying to capture those main components of what each of the buildings are doing. And while each school is unique and each staff is unique and the students that they serve are unique, I hope that you're able to hear some common themes around the work that's happening at each of the sites. And so this is really trying to look at what some of those themes are. One is around every building, every site is committed for a robust data system. And why that's important is that this work is really a student-by-student process. Every student matters. Every student. And so when you begin to look at it and have the lens of that, and you begin tracking the progress for that, then you help to ensure that no students fall through the cracks, right, or get left behind. It's also important because for our teachers, as they prepare, and our principals, as we prepare our instruction, what impact did it have? When our paras are committing to those small groups, did it have the intended consequence that we want? And we only get that if we have data to track that progress. And so that was a really big system, and Pete just talked about all of the buildings participating today in professional learning around data systems. Also around the idea of professional learning communities, and that's more than just the 1.5 hours on a Monday. Those are the teacher teams. Those are working and collaborating together. Those are the partnerships that we have with our paras and teachers and administrators. And the idea that we can support one another, we can help to accelerate the growth for our students, and the idea that the smartest person in the room is the room, right? It's the collective knowledge that we bring and that we share. The other two are around instructional core, which is that relationship between the students and the teacher and the curriculum that's being presented, and this idea of a guaranteed and viable curriculum, or in other words, to ensure that all students have an equal opportunity to have these high quality lessons and learning experiences, right, through sound curriculum. And so those are really, despite their differences, those are the things that we believe have in common. And why do we have this? Why is that the focus? So that we can fulfill our promise to our students, we can fulfill the promise to our parents and to our community. And that's captured in the graduate profile. That when students leave our system, that they're critical thinkers, that they can communicate, that they're learners, that they can collaborate with one another, and that they're advocates. We just saw today the idea of around people gathering together to advocate for something that they believe in. And so we want our students to be equipped and have those tools. But just having the goal itself, we need a way to track that. We need a way to measure that. And that's really where the district goals and the benchmarks fit in. Those indicators to say, where are we at in those commitments? What progress are we making? And even though it's a graduate profile, we all know that it doesn't just say, well, all right, senior teachers, it's all on you, right? We got to prepare these kids all along the way, starting from our earliest and youngest students. And so the idea around having 100% of our kindergarten students ready for first grade, that preparation that goes into that. With our third graders reading on grade level in their language of instruction, students who pass algebra in 9th grade, all of these benchmarks that we have is around data that says these are key indicators that say if the student is able to be at this level at this time, their likelihood for continued success is that much greater. And so that's where these benchmarks come from. Some might argue, well, 100% is a pretty lofty goal. Absolutely. Because every kid matters, right? And so while we may not be there this year or next year, we better be showing progress towards that goal. Progress that we're going towards our commitment to our kids and community. And so as Pete talked about, I think it's probably the understatement of the year to say that last year was a little different, right? Many unique challenges, many things that were happening, and we're still battling through some of that. But we wanted to provide some data, even if it's not complete. And what I mean by that is some of the disruptions came from the state canceling some of the assessments and the tools that we've used in the past to gather data. And so a lot of the items that we'll see here are from local assessments that we've tried to create in absence of those state assessments to try to see where the kid's at. And so when we compare that against our benchmarks, you can see percentage-wise, this is using really great reading assessment where they are in preparation for the upcoming year as far as where we are in our goal. With third grade, looking at on grade level using the STAR assessment, which is a local assessment that we use in the averages there. With ninth grade, these were a little more concrete in that we had the data ourselves to be able to say how many passed algebra last year as ninth graders. And we're closer to that target. Still not where we want to be or where we need to be, but closer in that area, as well as in the on track for graduation. The last indicator, the one that talks about meaningful progress to fulfilling that OSD graduate profile, because that is newly adopted this year, there is no data for that. And so, but there will be. We also want to be clear that going forward, as Pete had mentioned, there'll be data not just on this, but okay, if third grade's the goal, how is second grade doing, right? We need to start looking at it as a complete system. So when our kids enter our system, whether they enter in preschool, or whether they enter in fifth grade, or they enter in high school, we need to identify where they're at and then have a plan for them as we pass that baton from grade level to grade level until they leave our system.
Thanks, Sean. I do want to stick on that slide just for a moment, at least for those of you, probably Jen mostly because she's been on the board for a longer period of time, and you've seen this several iterations of metrics and benchmarks. And again, this is, oh yes, and the feedback on the budget hearing was helpful, so I apologize for not getting you the hard copies earlier, but I think it is, it's nice to have both formats there, so an opportunity to ask questions. But as it relates to this, we're going to be able to provide the data about how our students are doing and where the system's at. I think this year is a transition year for you and for us to say, here's what it's going to look and feel like, and you'll hear mid-year how we're doing and how things are going, and we'll have a lot more data and numbers to share with you, but we wanted you to have a sense of what it's going to feel like. So the last slide really gets at that idea of coherence as well, and it's just summarizing again what you heard from our building principals about what they're going to focus on this year, and it's that idea of data systems and knowing that what they're doing makes a difference for students. How we talk as adults about whether or not kids are learning, how much they're learning, and when they are, what do we do to accelerate it, and when they're not, what do we do to support them? Thinking about the instructional core and the content and the tasks that we ask our students to complete. That's the work that you heard from them. That's the real work, and we really believe that concept that I shared with you several weeks ago about weighing the pig, right? These are the scales we're going to use. We're going to weigh how our kids are doing through that profile and through those district benchmarks. And we're really excited about where that's going to take us. So that's our end of year, start of year report. We wanted to let you know how, so what was a very unusual year for our students and our staff. And we're hopeful that this next year is more traditional. And this is how we'll be reporting out on it. But certainly interested in getting feedback from the board today and moving forward about how we're going to report our progress as a school district.
So Pete, like 2 years ago, were these numbers like 90, 80, 90%? Or is this like just from just last year?
This is only data from last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so which numbers would you be referring to?
Like the kinder students ready for first grade.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great catch, Sharon. So what you'll see there is what we reported on for several years was what percentage of students were ready for kinder.
Okay.
Well, we took these benchmarks to our staff and we said, hey, what do you think of these? And a group of the teachers said, why are we measuring our performance when we don't have every kid in our community in our pre-K? We don't have control over that. So should we judge our performance based on things we can't control? And I thought, well, that's really interesting feedback. So in talking with them, we adjusted it and said, every kid who's in kinder that's in our system, are they ready for first grade? Still an early learning measure, but it's measuring our work, not the work of kids who might not be in our system. So that is a subtle change. Still, most of our students that come to our pre-K program, those numbers would be in the 90s. They're ready for kinder.
Yes.
But this is about measuring every student in the OSD.
So like, when you take certain areas of the town, are they strong? Are we getting certain areas of kids that go to the preschool versus another area? I mean, like an area that maybe really needs to have help. Are those kids involved in preschool, or do they not sign up? It's like you sign up first come, first come.
Yeah, and I mean, there's sort of that idea about our parents going to advocate, but I think we've done an excellent job of reaching out to families. That's how we've been able to grow the program. That's how we've been able to, this idea about moving to transitional K. We're absolutely giving as many opportunities as we can, more than we ever have. And certainly there's a push across the country to offer all-day pre-K for every kid, right? We're not quite there yet. But as those funds become available, and if we think it's right for our community, I think we're in a really good spot to take off from where we're at.
I mean, I could see wonderful results going in through the preschool, but I didn't know if we were able to grab from every area in town that the kids needed.
Yeah, we do our best to reach out to every kid that we think can benefit from it, absolutely.
When I first looked at this and I seen the district goals and everything there said 100%, and I go, man, they're shooting for the stars right off the bat.
Yeah.
But then, John, you hit it when you said every student matters. And it does. That's the baseline right there.
Yeah, and I think John's way of viewing that is I mean, he said that at Hiawatha when he was the principal there, right? Kid by kid. So think about that one where it says 90% of OHS students pass 9th grade. So there are about, past algebra, there are about 400 going to be sophomores that were in 9th grade. So 10 per 100 didn't pass algebra by the end of 9th grade, which is a strong indicator that they're not going to graduate from high school. So that would be about 40 kids. So when you get down to that kind of number and you say those 40 kids are not going to graduate, why wouldn't you make it 100, right? Especially if you can identify them like that. And that's the power of these research-based metrics. They're not ones we created and came up with, except for the first one. We adjusted that a little bit. These are really research-based across the country. This is what really matters to get kids a meaningful diploma to allow them to move on to the next phase of their life. So you're right, Ken. 100%, are we ever going to get there? I don't think so. But we're going to work really hard to make sure we get as close as we can. Okay.
Yes.
So the 10% of those freshmen that took algebra, do they get another year as a sophomore to retake algebra? Is there
Absolutely.
time for it?
Yeah.
There is time for it. To still bring that grade up to graduate.
Yeah, so here's how you get that kind of data. You take all the freshmen and you look at their schedules and you sort it by any kid that got an F last year. And then by hand, you go through and you highlight the kids that didn't pass algebra. And it probably took us an hour with 4 people, and we're able to generate it and say, that's our number. So that kind of attention to detail, it's really going to make a difference for our kids. And it's really going to help the high schools decide which kids go in which classes. And then over time, we would say, which kids are struggling the most? What can we do to address those? What do they have in common? How do we create these groups that we can support? I think the other thing that's really interesting about this is if we pay attention to that 9th graders on track, what's the graduation rate going to be for this class of now soon to be sophomores in 3 years? Will it really be 83%? It'll probably be pretty close to that. You can pick that out pretty early. And again, when you get down to numbers, can you identify those 50 or 60 kids right now and say, listen, history tells us that kids in your situation with your transcript, they don't graduate. And if you don't graduate, this is what it means for your future. So you got to come to school every day. You got to pay attention. We're offering you as much support as we can. Partner with us, right? Having those kinds of more hopeful conversations with kids is what this kind of metric is about.
Good work.
And just what Pete shared is absolutely true about statistically, if you looked, it would be those 40 students, right, that won it. But that's a national statistic, right? So our job is to break that. So our job is to go through and because of these systems and these processes to say, we know that you're in a bad spot right now, but we're here to lift you up. So just to answer your question, to be clear and to echo what Pete said, that no, all is certainly not lost for them, but it is going to, those are things that we just want to be watchful and mindful of so that we can catch them and support them and get them back on
Yes.
track.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Laser focus. Awesome. Okay, anything else on graduate profile benchmarks? Wonderful reports. Thank you very much. Great. All right, we are going to move on to F1, executive session. We are going to go into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss potential real estate purchase or lease. No action will be taken following the executive session, but we're going to have a 3-minute recess before we go into that. Okay. Are we going to set a timer for us? Please don't.